rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, the studio here smells like bacon. I already told my Rumblers this, which, by the way, if you haven't gone over to rumble.com, you really should. There's a great group of people there. They hop in the chat. Some come early. And actually, the ones that do kind of race to see who's going to be first. But oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know what Mrs. Whiskey is cooking for dinner, but she's cooking with bacon. And it's filling the studio here. My stomach is like starting to growl. So if my stomach starts growling and you guys hear it, man, I'm telling you, I've got good gut sounds. For those of you who own horses, you'll understand what I mean. Oh, bacon. Oh. I think it's the one thing that Americans all love. Anyway, all right, enough with that. I'm probably going to come back to it here if it keeps going. The smell is just, it's just coming. Anyway, all right. Oh, let's move on. We got a lot to cover tonight. And definitely some things. We've got a great announcement for the top ad, the top promotional. I got a great announcement for you, which we'll get to in just a second. But before we do, let's go ahead and listen to Bonnie. Bonnie is up tonight for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and join in with Bonnie as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself saying the pledge, reciting the pledge in your style, and then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file there is, and, that it creates, and send it off to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. Send it off to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. Hey, U.S. Abbey Girl had a bit of a accent last night for the pledge, and Bonnie just had another little bit of an accent there. I know. I'm from the North. The Northerners all have accents. The Southerners don't. I get it. Anyway, enough said. Let's move on to tonight's headline sponsor, which, oh, wait, before I do that, I keep forgetting. I got to do this.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. Tonight is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight I am drinking the Bullet Bourbon. I am taking a shot of the Bullet. This is Bullet Bourbon, and it is Frontier Whiskey. That's what I got on tap for tonight. And, of course, it is in the True Grit Roots Network glass. Look at that. The colors match with the American Perspective colors. That's right, America's red, white, and blue. And, of course, there's the Stones. One less than usual. Oh, damn, there goes that bacon again. One less than usual, but there it is. It's in. The Stones are in The stones are in, and there we go. We'll take a drink. Mm-mm-mm. Ooh-wee. That is some bourbon right there. Well, because it's Wednesday, because it is TGRN night, I have a fantastic announcement for TGRN's Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. And here it is. They are running, the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio channel is running a swag bag giveaway campaign. And what this is for, it's to drive traffic to the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio Facebook page. Now, here's how this is going to work. For the next 6 weeks, they will announce each Monday what the criteria is in order to win. Well, they're trying to push everybody toward their Facebook page. So obviously it has something to do with posting on their Facebook page or commenting or something along those lines. But what'll happen is for the next 6 weeks, they will announce on the air each Monday what the criteria is needed in order to win, what you have to do, okay? Then the winners will be announced on the air Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. For those of you who don't do the math very easily, that's 10 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Pacific on the air. So once again, this is a swag bag giveaway from Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. And what you're going to do is you have to listen in at least, long enough on a Monday, all right, for over the next 6 weeks. And each week will have something different that they are going to do. And you listen on Monday, you find out what the criteria is, and then you do that, and you enter, obviously, to do that. Whatever it is they tell you to do, you do that, and you're entered to win. Then you have to listen on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time in order, on the air, they will announce who the winner is. This is a fantastic thing that they are doing for Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. You guys got to go and check it out. You can check it out by going to tgrn.net. That's TGRN, True Grit Roots Network.net is our home on the web, where you can get all kinds of information on that, and you need to go and check it out. Yeah, they're driving stuff to their Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio Facebook page. So there you go. Once again, go to tgrn.net. I'm sure the website will probably have something about it pretty soon. This is breaking news for you. So again, breaking news for the TGRN Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio Facebook page campaign swag bag giveaway. You heard it first right here on American Perspective. All right, go ahead and head off. That's good enough. Yeah, go to tgrn.net. Check us out. All right. So, Trump just finished, a basic whirlwind of a trip over to the Middle East. And I got to tell you, while some of the things that happened may be taking a lot of critiques, it actually was a very good trip in terms of business. And there were some, definitely a lot of, I'll call them promissory notes, but definitely a lot of promissory notes in regards to investments into the U.S. and U.S. companies from places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. Well, there also was a visit to Syria and this is the first thing that I'm going to talk about tonight. Trump is asking Syria to actually join the Abraham Accords. So for those of you that don't recall from Trump's first term, there was the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords essentially were a peace deal that was brokered and was attempted to be brokered by the last Trump administration. And they were getting ready to sign it. They actually were getting ready to sign it. And, several of the countries there. And then, of course, October 7th happened, and that, threw everything off. Because Iran cannot have these people, its neighbors, basically, come to an accord, because that would mean that they are now the forgive my expression, but the redheaded stepchild for that. So anyway, Trump asks Syria to join the Abraham Accords and normalize ties with Israel in return for sanctions relief. Now, Trump has lifted the sanctions, or at least announced it. He also asked Syria to tell all the terrorists to leave and to take charge of an ISIS prison. This is according to an article in Fox News with regards to this. It's a readout of the pivotal meeting for Syria that happened today. Trump encouraged Ahmed al-Shahara to sign onto the Abraham Accords with Israel, tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria, deport Palestinian terrorists, and to help the U.S. prevent the resurgence of ISIS, that's the Islamic State, and assume charge of the ISIS detention centers that are currently up in northern or northeast Syria. Some 10,000 ISIS fighters are actually imprisoned in the region, where the U.S.-backed Kurdish militia, known as the Syrian Democratic Forces, are charged with keeping them locked up. The U.S. currently has about 1,400 troops stationed in Syria to fight ISIS. Trump said Tuesday that it was a dream for Saudi Arabia to join the accords, but predicted that Riyadh would do so in its own time. The kingdom has long insisted it would not do so until there is a path for Palestinian statehood. Now, we know that ain't going to happen, because there was a Palestinian state. It was known as the Gaza Strip, and from 2006 all the way up until October 7th, 2 years ago, is it 2 years? I think it's 2 years, almost 2 years ago, that they had their own Palestinian state, and they decided to screw it away by going and attacking their nearest neighbor, who was providing them with all kinds of support. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, Trump announced Tuesday that he would lift sanctions on Syria and meet with the leader, who had once had a $10 million U.S. bounty on his head. So Trump is trying to bring peace into the region. Once again, peace through strength. And that's what he's attempting to do here, is all of that. And they, meaning the left, keeps pounding on him for that particular scenario and for him working with these folks. Well, he walked away with a $600 billion promise from the Saudis, which contained a lot of deals. I talked about that last night. But he also secured a historic $1.2 trillion economic commitment during his visit in Qatar. Now, a lot of people, especially those who are, let's say, a little more invested in the region, like Ben Shapiro, for an example, is very critical of any kind of connection to Qatar. The fact of the matter is that while I understand where Ben Shapiro is coming from that angle. I get it. Qatar does fund Iran and several other terrorist regimes in the area. I mean, Qatar basically takes their money and they fund just about everybody. They fund U.S. universities. They fund the U.S., U.S. political situations. They fund both sides, by the way. They don't even care. It's just whoever is going to provide them with the best, shall we say, service, quote unquote. But the fact of the matter is that regardless of how you feel about Qatar and about what the Qatarians, or however they're pronounced, in this, okay, regardless of that, the fact is that the money has been promised and it's secured some very strategic deals in terms of our business partners across the American region. And, keep in mind, I mean, America manufacturing, we need to bring this back. And so American manufacturing and everything, we can't necessarily afford to, not take the money. Anyway, so President Trump signed an agreement with Qatar to generate an economic exchange worth roughly around $1.2 trillion. President Trump also announced economic deals totaling $243.5 billion just between the United States and Qatar directly. And this is including a historic exchange, listen to me, of Boeing aircraft and GE Aerospace engines to Qatar Airways. Could that be the motivator as to why Qatar wanted to gift a $400 million airplane to the United States government? Is that possible? Maybe. So here's a couple of details on this whole deal. So the following, a couple of these things are out there. So Boeing and GE Aerospace secured a landmark order from Qatar Airways, which is a $96 billion agreement to acquire up to 210 American-made Boeing 787 Dreamliners and 777Xs powered by GE Aerospace engines. This is Boeing's largest ever wide-body order and largest ever 787 order. Now, this historic agreement is going to support 154,000 U.S. jobs annually, totaling over 1 million jobs in the United States during the course of production and delivery for this deal. Okay? McDermott, which is another company that has a strong partnership with Qatari Energy in advancing critical energy infrastructure, has 7 active projects worth $8.5 billion. As the sole provider for offshore components for Qatar's major LNG, that's liquid natural gas, their expansion, McDermott's work directly supports thousands of U.S. energy sector jobs. Parsons, which is a I'm guessing an engineering firm. I haven't seen what it is, but Parsons has successfully won 30 projects worth up to $97 billion. These high-value engagements have fueled significant company growth, supporting thousands of jobs across the United States and reinforcing American leadership in cutting-edge engineering and innovation. And finally, Quantum. That's Quantum. Quantum. Okay. finalized a joint venture agreement with Al Raban Capital, a prominent Qatari company. Qatar is supposed to invest up to $1 billion in state-of-the-art quantum technologies and workforce development provided by the joint venture, supporting both U.S. and Qatari jobs and leadership in this critical emerging technology, meaning quantum computing. Folks, now there's additional defense deals, by the way, that came along with this as well. So, for an example, Qatar is going to procure state-of-the-art military equipment from two of the U.S. leading defense companies, one of them being Raytheon. They secured a $1 billion agreement for Qatar's acquisition of counter-drone capabilities, and that was signed by the U.S. and Qatari governments. Maybe they might be thinking that, Anyway, that Iran... Anyway, the deal itself establishes Qatar as the first international customer for Raytheon's fixed-site, low-slow, small, unmanned aerial system integrated defeat system. Wow, that is a complete mouthful. The acronym is FS-LIDS, so FS LIDS, and it's designed to counter unmanned aircraft. The deal directly supports highly skilled manufacturing and engineering jobs in the United States and reinforces America's leadership in innovative defense technologies. General Atomics has secured a nearly $2 billion agreement for Qatar's acquisition of what's known as the MQ-9B remotely piloted aircraft system. And keep in mind, these two are defense systems, okay? The United States and Qatar also signed a statement of intent to further strengthen their security partnership, outlining over $38 billion in potential investments, including support for burden sharing at Al Udeid Air Base and future defense capabilities related to air defense and maritime security. Now, keep in mind, we lost in Afghanistan one of the most strategic air bases in that region because it's right on the back door of China. And it would have been great to hang on to it, but because of Biden's incompetence, he let it go. And so, yeah, there you go. That's it. So all of these new agreements and instruments aim to drive the growth of the U.S.-Qatar bilateral commercial relationship, creating thousands of well-paying jobs and opening new trade and investment opportunities for both countries over the coming decade and beyond. So this is, now, you can say whatever you want about Qatar. I mean, they certainly aren't hiding it. But they spend billions of dollars in all kinds of different aspects. So there's no reason necessarily, I mean, other than the ethical and moral complaints, which you could make those complaints. Yes, that's true. But why not go ahead and grab some of that money for American businesses and manufacturing? Why not do that? So, it also helps that the more that we get involved here, there is a possibility that we have a little bit more influence over what Qatar does in terms of things like, having Hamas leadership live in 5-star hotels as retirement homes for them. I mean, anyway. So all in all, I would say that was a very successful trip for his first, long-term trip. First long distance trip over there for this kind of connection. Now, there was talk of him possibly dropping into Turkey and dropping into the Zelensky-Putin conversation. But Putin backed out of it because Putin doesn't really want peace. Zelensky is willing to come to the table thanks to the pressure that the Trump administration has been putting on him, but Putin doesn't want to come to the table. So there's going to be a little bit more that has to be pushed toward that direction. So there you go. Anyway. All right. Outside of these successes, which the left obviously hasn't even really discussed. So, but anyway, there was the left in particular. Some Democrats have now gotten to a point where they are starting to actually tell the truth, believe it or not. And the left eats their own. They just do. They eat their own. And CNN's Jake Tapper is working with another author, and he where was he? Let's see. He made some remarks during a segment on News Central, and he is pushing his book. Okay, he's pushing his books, or his book, in particular about Joe Biden and the quote-unquote cover-up where the Biden White House lied to cover Biden's decline. Now, I don't know if anybody saw this, but there is a new report that came out, and it might be coming from this book, and I think it is, that Biden insiders were actually concerned about Biden's cognitive and, in this particular case, his physical decline, whereas if he had fallen over again, they discussed the possible idea of putting him in a wheelchair. Now, reportedly, the doctor was saying that Biden's spinal decline was enough to warrant the possibility of putting Biden into a wheelchair. Okay, sure. But the left is freaking pissed over this whole thing. Now, I sit and I ask the question. I mean, Biden is gone. You guys, meaning the Democrats, okay, you guys kicked Biden to the curb like an hour, basically at the 11th hour of the election. Okay. And what happened? Well, they covered it. They tried to cover that up, and then they switched out Harris. And so now I honestly, I don't understand why any of this is really all that important to the Democrats, realistically. I'm seriously confused in this whole thing, but they apparently want to eat Jake Tapper. So, Jake, and I'm not kidding you. So Jake Tapper was on the program, on a CNN program here. I've got a little bit of a video, and let's go ahead and just listen to the man himself talk about this particular scenario and the book.
Choice to run again. It was written by Axios' Alex Thompson and CNN's own Jake Tapper. Jake is here to join us now. I'm curious about what his advisors were saying at the time as you look at this, as you reported out this book.
So the White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, was telling White House aides that President Biden's deterioration of his spine, the degeneration, was so significant that if he fell one more time, that he might have to be in a wheelchair and serve in a wheelchair for his second term. But everybody pushed off the notion that he use a wheelchair until after the election. This is all part of a larger whole where the Biden White House tried to hide the extent of his deterioration, both physical and cognitive, as much as possible. In fact, as we all know, we all saw, as his shuffling gait got worse and worse from 2003 to 2004, they started putting aides around him as he walked to Marine One, the helicopter that was to kind of hide from public view how bad his gait was, how bad his walking was, his shuffling, and also in case he stumbled again to make sure somebody was there. And this is just of a piece of an overall campaign to try to conceal from the American people the extent to which the president was really struggling to do his job.
So I'll continue here in just a second, but you all remember that, don't you? I remember that. It was like the changing. All of a sudden, he was walking alone. They would have, images and video of him walking alone to go to Marine One, the helicopter that's used by the president to, transfer from the White House to places like, say, Camp David or Andrews Air Force Base to get on Air Force One. And all of a sudden, he went from walking alone in the grass to having aides all around him. Now, the supposition at the time was that they were covering up his shuffling gait, his low gait. But now it seems like we now hear from Jake Tapper, who, by the way, doesn't take any kind of credit for being a part of the cover-up of this at all. He totally leaves out the fact that he was part of it. Anyway. So yeah, so overall, let me just tell you, the left is just absolutely furious with Jake Tapper. In fact, they are so furious that even the sycophantic followers that I've seen on social media, they're all like, F Tapper, F this, F that, F this, da-da-da. It's like, really? Oh, they love to eat their own. They really do. So, yeah. So this book, and I'll be honest with you, not that I really want to pay Jake Tapper anything or give him any kind of special, give him any kind of credit for this, but I'd be interested to get the book just to read it, just to see, first of all, if Jake Tapper is actually a really good writer. And that's, I don't know, but I'm just wondering if the book tells even more than that, or if that was just the juiciest bits right there. Anyway, so yeah, so Jake Tapper is no longer the darling of the left anymore. Now there's, so far as of Tuesday afternoon, there were no public statements from the Biden-Harris administration or from Dr. Kevin O'Connor addressing the claims that were raised by Tapper in CNN. And so, yeah, there you go. The thing is that Tapper himself has his own reporting where he smeared and attacked people who actually brought up Biden's decline, including Democrats. And yeah, that's the whole point. So he comes out with this book, and he actually was, again, part of the problem. Anyway, I don't know. These Democrats, man, I'm telling you, talk about backstabbers, every single freaking one. All right. Oh, so let me move on to the reason why I put the title the way that I did. So I don't know if anybody has seen this. I'm sure you have, although the news cycle seems to be moving so quick that there's a lot of stuff that just disappears after a little bit of time. But anyway, so there was a ICE detention center out in Newark, New Jersey. And the New Jersey mayor, his name is Ras Baraka, or Raz Baraka, I'm assuming it's Raz. Ras Baraka has been all over the news because he and some of his Democrat representative morons, the more extremist Democrats, actually went and stormed an ICE facility, this ICE facility, on Friday. Now, reportedly, they were abusing the law enforcement that was there, tried to disrupt the lawful handling of illegal immigrants. Baraka himself was arrested. And, of course, everybody, I think, saw the photos of him being taken off. Well, that pissed the left off. That really did. And now he's under threat of prosecution by the Justice Department for him and the rest of his cohorts. They're still kind of trying to figure it out. The Justice Department is like, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. But anyway, Baraka decided to make himself, let's just say comparable to a Bible figure. So he was talking to a crowd of several dozen supporters at a rally at his hometown yesterday. And he said, and I quote, "This is our David moment." Like he's likening himself to David, as in the story of David and Goliath. He continues the statement. He says, "Many of us miss our David moment because we are trying to run away from confrontation and controversy. But your crowd lives in the middle of controversy. The thing that has been promised to you is surrounded by high walls and the gates are guarded by giants. If you're running from conflict and controversy, then you'll never get what's promised you. This is our David moment." Really? Yeah. So just to give you an idea of what he's referencing here, in case you don't know, it's a well-known story of David versus Goliath, but David was the second ruler of the United Kingdom of ancient Israel and Judah. He founded the Judean dynasty and united all the tribes of Israel under a single monarch. His son Solomon expanded the empire that David built. David himself is an important figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as well. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that story and historical figure is equating to trying to storm an ICE facility. Yeah. Anyway, this guy, I gotta tell you. Oh, so here, let me just go ahead and show you the moment of the mayor's King David. Here's the video.
Get off of her! Get off of her! You cannot push it! You cannot hold this! You cannot push members of Congress! Get off of her!
You are fascist! Fascist is people! Get off of her! I'm sorry.
So for those of you who are on the audio portion of the program, you can hear all of the yelling and everything else that's kind of going on, but there's a lot of pushing and shoving, and the mayor's in the middle of it, and they're trying to transfer somebody in to the gates and so on and so forth. And yeah, let's just say it's not a very pleasant look for the Democrats. But then again, the Democrats are the violent ones. They always are violent. That's just the way it is. But overall, that doesn't seem like a David and Goliath moment. It's not like a huge shift in the world as we know it happened under this. Anyway, so this gentleman had his I am Spartacus. You remember Cory Booker? Yeah, he had his I am Spartacus moment. Anyway, well, here's part of the problem. So that entire, performative thing led to Mayor Ras Baraka getting arrested. And there's his mugshot. Oh, there it is. That's his mugshot. Yep, he got arrested because essentially they attempted to break in, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So this guy decided to do this. Well, here's the problem though. Even with some of the people, because again, I'm just pointing out to you, all right? Again, I'm just pointing out to you that there were some Democrat representatives from Congress who were there. Okay? Some Democrat members of Congress were also there. And, well, let's just say that AOC, yes, that's right, the bartender slash waitress slash airhead from the Bronx, weighs in on all of this. So apparently, she threw a fit about the possibility that some of these House Democrats who were at this site were possibly going to face arrest. Now, the three Democrats who were basically involved in the chaos were Representatives Bonnie Watson Coleman, Rob Menendez Jr., and LaMonica McIver. Okay. So Ras Baraka was, by the way, he was arrested for trespassing during the chaos. And so that's what he did. I mean, he's being arrested for trespassing on that. But the Department of Homeland Security is investigating whether or not they need to do anything toward those other House Democrat representatives. Well, that kind of pissed Ocasio-Cortez, or as Mark Levin calls her, AOC. Anyway, so here is, I think, part of her rant about this whole situation. Let's take a listen.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested, okay?
All right. So here's the thing. Technically, she's sort of correct. Sort of. Let me explain something to you. Now, the legal things that she is discussing in terms of the idea of, the Congress people, in the law, meaning that they have to have access, so on and so forth. Well, okay, sure. But they can't necessarily disrupt operations. Oversight means watching, observing, that kind of stuff. And definitely not Karen. No, that's Bob Menendez, not the other Menendez, the Menendez Jr. Although he may very well be related to the original Bob Menendez Jr. So definitely not Karen points out isn't that Gold Bar Bob? It's not Bob, it's Junior. So anyway, back to AOC and AOC. Well, let me put it to you like this. You guys, meaning the Democrats, have been screaming and hollering about the fact that no one is above the law. I got the law right here. I got the Constitution. This is a copy of the Constitution. And under Article 1, Section 6, about the third or fourth, fourth in my book, it's like fifth line down, but anyway, it says, they shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace. Oh, wait a minute. What was that? Breach of peace? Whoa. Hold up. Let me read that again. This statement, they shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace. Now, here's the key. I'm going to follow this. Here's the key. Be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. So there is a constitutional immunity granted to people in Congress, to our representatives in Congress. But again, let me read that first statement. So maybe AOC or AOC will actually understand, because, you know, she has an economics degree. She doesn't have a law degree. She has an economics degree, and even that's wasted on her because she doesn't even understand economics. But that being said, let me read it again. They shall, meaning the senators and representatives, they shall in all cases except, hey, AOC, that means in all cases other than the following list, okay? Treason, felony, and holy crap, breach of peace. Well, you guys saw the video. For those on the audio portion of the program, you heard the video. Was that a breach of peace? I would say that pretty much qualifies. Yeah, that was a breach of peace. So that means that they lose their immunity constitutionally. That removes their immunity from arrest. Huh. I read that again. I'm just, somebody please, I know that I have the most intelligent listening audience in the internet ethosphere. Somebody tell me if I'm interpreting this somewhat incorrectly. They shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace be privileged from arrest during their attendance. Now here's the other piece. During their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same. Now that tells me that you only have, as a member of the Senate and Congress, you only have immunity from arrest when you're either going to Capitol Hill or from Capitol Hill in your basically in the not distribution, but doing your duties, okay? Doing your duties. So, yeah, hey, yo, AOC, sweetheart, nothing supersedes the Constitution of the United States. So if the Constitution of the United States basically states that representatives and senators can only have immunity from arrest if you're at Capitol Hill, on your way to, from Capitol Hill, those three scenarios, in all cases, except for breach of peace as one of those conditions. Sounds to me like, yeah, they can damn well be arrested for what they did, for what they were doing at that ICE facility. Yeah, sorry, sweetheart, but I'm basically, I mean, comparatively to you, I'm a relative nobody other than the fact that I am an American citizen who can actually read and understand English and the Constitution. She claims in that video, of course, that anyone breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress. No, actually, they are breaking the law. They are breaking the law. Totally breaking the law. Now, she is also, of course, threatening Trump officials. Now, I seem to recall that, you know, speech and threatening somebody is not something that you necessarily can do. I mean, that's not falling into the whole free speech thing. I think that there's some very interesting lawyers who need to get involved here and teach AOC or AOC what the law actually says. So anyway, she's attempting, obviously, to try and throw around whatever power she thinks she has, which, by the way, is kind of bolstered from the concept that she has raised a crap ton of money. I mean, reportedly, she's raised at least $10 million toward some campaign. We don't know what campaign, but anyway. So I'm just sitting here and I'm like trying to figure out, okay, breach of peace seems to me like if you're causing a ruckus outside of an ICE facility, that would be considered a breach of peace, and therefore your immunity no longer exists. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a average, everyday American who can actually read and understand the language of English and has done pretty well for himself in terms of English comprehension tests. Just saying. Just saying. That's all. Anyway, she thinks, my guess is that she's probably doing this, obviously, in her TikTok videos. I mean, let's face it, this is like, she's trying to connect with the younger generation, people who, you know, hang out on TikTok and Facebook and those types of people all day long. But anyway, she probably thinks that this is increasing her credibility with the left and possibly bolstering a potential run for president in 2028. Yeah. Anyway, by the way, she hasn't said whether or not she's going to run or not, but right now there are a lot of people who are saying that she probably has the best chance of being in the lead should the field start looking in 2028. Now, according to Jasmine Crockett, which I didn't talk about the other day, but she apparently said that donors are already getting behind a white male and might just skip around AOC, or AOC, as Mark Levin calls her. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure about that. Now, there is some. Now, Jasmine Crockett, believe it or not, at the time that she made that comment, she didn't necessarily like call somebody out, but there was references to potentially that the Democrat donors, the powerful Democrat donors, who essentially all tried to get behind Little Miss Harris, and that fell flat on their face, that they basically are potentially going to be looking at somebody the likes of Gavin Newsom. But I'm just going to point this out. There's a long road between now and 2028. So, yeah, we can say all we want about this. But Democrats, of course, think that this is fighting back against Donald Trump. All this is doing is just getting her in deeper and deeper water with all of this. So I'm sorry Ayach, but your immunity from arrest doesn't fit within, constitutionally speaking, because again, she kind of said that this is a constitutional problem. No, it's not. Once again, the Constitution states that you lose your immunity should you breach the peace, which I would think is a very definition of causing a scene in front of an ICE facility when they're trying to do their jobs. Well, it's not only AOC that has jumped on this bandwagon, although I will have to say, 3 Chevy. That's a good question. I have not heard whether or not they paid back that $20 million. Meaning this is the Harris campaign paying back the $20 million that they were over budget on or whatever. But anyway, it's not just AOC. I mean, let's face it, Hakeem Jeffries ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer either. And he tries to be what some have called a Obama wannabe. But he's now jumping on this bandwagon. Although not as overtly as AAC or AOC, depending upon how you want to look at it. But he now is threatening DHS officials on this. Yeah, I think you guys need to pull out the Constitution and realize that, yeah, there's not much of a leg to stand on for these 3 Democrat idiot morons who tried to stop ICE and broke the peace for this entire thing. Well, yeah. The DHS spokesman, or spokesperson, I should say, Tricia McLaughlin, made a statement responding to AOC, saying that it was unacceptable to assault the ICE agents. Well, now Jeffries is getting involved. Here is Jeffries, a little bit more veiled, I'll admit, a little bit more veiled than AOC or AOC. But let's go ahead and listen to Jeffries and see what he says.
Questions?
Later. Good afternoon. What would your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though?
They'll find out.
Recourse? I mean, but doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I mean, I know we have this...
It's a red line. It's very clear. First of all, I think that the so-called Homeland Security spokesperson is a joke. It's a joke. They know better than to go down that road, and it's been made loudly and abundantly clear to the Trump administration. We're not going to be intimidated by their tactics to try to force principled opposition from not standing up to their extremism. It hasn't happened during the entirety of this failed term. It didn't happen when Donald Trump temporarily was sitting high in the immediate aftermath of the election. Do you think it's going to happen now, when he's the most unpopular president in American history after his first 100 days? Give me a break.
Correction. He's more popular than you guys. You know, I just got a question. Why does it sound like he is taking lines from somebody? I mean, listen to the way that he speaks. He says a few words, 5, 6, 7 words, and then pauses for a very long time, almost like he's being fed another line. Like somebody's in the background going, okay, now say this. And make sure that you say it emphatically. Make it look like you know what you're talking about. Okay, now say this. Oh, that was a good line. Say this. I mean, seriously, I don't know. The way that he's speaking, now keep in mind, I mean, I pause. There's times where I pause. And there's a point. I pause for dramatic effect. And maybe occasionally, and I tell you this, that I sit here and kind of think about what word I am looking for. And I will tell you. But this guy sounds like he is literally taking line for line whatever kind of speech that he is attempting to make. All right, there's only a few seconds left on this video. Let's go ahead and finish it.
No one's intimidated by this dude. No one. And so there are clear lines that they just dare not cross. Questions?
So there are clear lines that they just dare not cross. Somebody in the background, I swear, somebody in the background saying, there are clear lines, pause for effect, then slowly say, dare not cross. It just, come on. This guy, he's just, he is a moron, which, by the way, if he ever became Speaker of the House, we would be in all kinds of trouble for this. Anyway, hey, Mr. Jeffries, and yes, I said Mr., not representative, because I'm not a New Yorker, so you don't represent me. But Mr. Jeffries, I highly encourage you to look up Article 1, Section 6 in the U.S. Constitution. You know, Buddy tells me that this is like a cross garlic or holy water to Democrats, like those items are to vampires. And I just got to tell you, Buddy is probably right. But they need to look up and read the Constitution and understand it because, yeah, our government is completely outside of its constitutional lines. Completely. Anyway. So he repeated the line, of course, many times. It's a red line. It's a red line. No, it's not a red line. It's actually a constitutional line that if you breach the peace, constitutional word, not mine, breach the peace, you no longer have protections from your arrest. So, sure. There's also, according to this piece in Red State, talking about, there's also clear lines about not assaulting federal agents and not trying to intimidate federal officials to stop them from enforcing the law. It sounds like Jeffries is doing something along the lines of Chuck Schumer, where he was talking about, and I'll tell you, Gorsuch, and I'll tell you, Kavanaugh, you will reap the whirlwind. You know that whole speech that he did? Sorry, just bad impression of Chuckles the clown, but anyway. Now, Jeffries obviously was talking at the very end about President Donald Trump's popularity. I hate to tell you this, but Trump's enforcement of immigration law there, Mr. Jeffries, is his most popular item. So anyway, they're his most popular policies. Trump's popular policies are on immigration, and so you guys are freaking trying to fight this. Yeah. Anyway, as always, the Democrats are like tying themselves to people who are non-constituents. Non-constituents. By that, I mean illegal aliens. But anyway, I digress. Gee. I've been taking on people on X, and yes, I spend a lot of time in the cesspool that is X. And unfortunately, even though Elon Musk has taken it over, it has gotten better. Okay, it has gotten better. But it's not completely absolved of the idiocy and the moronic rantings of the leftist lunatics that are over there. But anyway, I've been taking them on a lot of issues here recently, and I'll be honest with you, it's made me pick up some followers. I am over 3,000 over there, which if you're watching this on X and you haven't followed me yet, you might want to. But anyway, I digress. One of the things that I did get involved with was this account. And we were talking or discussing the plane. And I brought up as a point to make in the conversation, because I was discussing the fact that the VC-35 or VC-25, I can't remember the actual nomenclature, that is being used as the current Air Force One. I wish Judge was here. He would correct me. I think it was the VC-35A. But anyway, I digress. It is irrelevant to the conversation. We were having a conversation about the possibility of having the GETTR jet, the gift, that was given to us, probably due to the fact that Boeing, they were going to end up spending, money in Boeing. I don't know. Anyway, it's just a gift for brokering a deal. Who the hell knows? But the point is that we were discussing it, and I brought up the fact that it was a 40-year-old plane, that the technology on it very likely is not the latest and greatest. And so therefore, being a part of understanding that we need the latest and greatest to protect our president, that it might not be a bad idea to get an updated plane. Now, this individual, and I'm not going to call him out, but you'll find it if you look up my account, you'll find it. And you look up my interactions. But anyway, this individual was calling out, well, the plane is in perfect order. And I'm going, yeah, I don't think so. I don't necessarily believe that it's 100% in perfect order, but it may be. I mean, who knows? It's a classified document. Okay, so, all right. So the 747, according to one of my absolute wise individuals over on Rumble, the 747 is known as the VC-25. That's its actual nomenclature in the Air Force world. But that being said, so anyway, we were in this conversation, and I made the comment. I basically said, hey, you do realize that the ATC, which is the Air Traffic Control Centers, which handle and basically protect millions of people every day in flights, every single day, are running on 1986 technology. And I essentially said that, yeah, it needs an update. It needs an update. Well, he or she, whatever the account was, immediately came back and essentially said that, there's no money. Because I mentioned the fact that the Biden administration actually allocated some money, for upgrading the air traffic control system. And his comment was, no, they didn't. They haven't done that. Well, all right. So this next conversation, or this next series of articles, is in regards to just that. Here in American military news, major delays at New Jersey airport caused by a telecommunications issue. Well, that's the story that the FAA has been giving everybody. So according to ABC7, which I guess is a local news outlet, the Federal Aviation Administration confirmed that a, quote, telecommunications issue at the Philadelphia Terminal Radar Approach Control, known as TRACON, Area C facility, which provides guidance for aircraft arriving and departing from Newark, caused the agency to implement a 45-minute ground stop this past Sunday. The FAA said in a statement, quote, the FAA briefly slowed aircraft in and out of the airport while we ensured redundancies were working as designed. Operations have returned to normal. And then they say to get real-time updates, go to fly.faa.gov. Now, according also to ABC7, Sunday's equipment issue at Newark Liberty International Airport follows another issue that was on Friday that involved radar screens temporarily going black. That particular, the outlet noted in particular that Friday's incident was the third time in just 2 weeks that the radar equipment itself failed at the Philadelphia facility that manages Newark's airspace. Now, here's the problem. I looked, and it didn't take me long. It took me a total of, I think, maybe 15 seconds of a quick search. And I'm not talking about a Google search because I don't use Google. I use Brave. But 15 seconds of a search brought me to the FAA's website and their news alerts and whatever. And here it is, right here, back on Wednesday, April 27th of 2022. For those of you who can't math, that means 3 years ago, during the Biden administration, the FAA begins investing $1 billion of bipartisan infrastructure law funding into the air traffic control system. That was under Pete Buttigieg. He probably forgot about the fact that there was $1 billion just sitting there to go and upgrade the air traffic control system. Now, okay, to be fair, not that I need to be, but to be fair, things like this do take a little bit of time, okay? They have to, go through the whole bid process. Believe me, I've worked on government contracts before. They have to go through a bid process. They have to get those bids back. They have to evaluate those bids. They have to then take the lowest bid because that's the way government works. But that's not a 3-year process, folks. I would give them maybe a first year to go through that bid process. Maybe a year and a half on the outside, but they should have been upgrading this system already. Reports are that they're not. There's not a single thing as of right now that is being reported that the air traffic control system, especially in Newark, is being upgraded. Okay? Nowhere. So, just to give you an idea of what was as a part of this, the funding, according to the FAA's own website, the funding, which was made possible through President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, will, and here's the quote, sustain, repair, or replace hundreds of buildings and pieces of equipment that make flying in the United States the safest in the world. Yeah. So, Pete Buttigieg, and you know what? Why I'm picking on him, I'm just going to point this out, because somebody on the social media outlets, posted a video of him. Actually, there were someones that did this, but the first one that I saw was a video of him at some sort of a town hall. And they basically were like, hey, look at this guy, president in 2028. And I said to myself, and of course posted this, I was like, no, America's already seen him and determined him to be unqualified. Somebody else who posted the exact same video, which this part I had to sort of puke at, but they were like, make the presidency sexy again. Yeah, that would be an awesome marketing ploy. Sure. Yep, there we go. I'm sorry, but this guy, seriously, the man literally went from a mayor of a city. I don't know if it was Ohio or Iowa. I mean, I honestly, I don't know. But he went from being a mayor of a city, and he freaking couldn't even fill the potholes of his city. And he became Secretary of Transportation, which I'm going to remind everybody had several accidents on record, including a huge train derailment that occurred in Palestine, Ohio, Palestine, Ohio, and he never visited the location until after Donald Trump make it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being corrected. It's either Indiana or Illinois. Like, okay, well, here's the thing. I don't care. It was one of the I states. I'm just saying, I mean, one of the I states. It wasn't Idaho. I will tell you that. It definitely wasn't Idaho. But this guy went from mayor of a very small town who couldn't even fill his own freaking potholes. Freaking potholes. Okay. And that's the other thing. He took time off during the administration, was gone for like 2 months. Oh, I guess it's Indiana. Okay. Everybody's talking about this. It's Indiana. So anyway, he took 2 months off to like fake nurse his quote unquote baby that they adopted. He and his husband adopted. And you know, have you ever seen those photos? I mean, it's like this whole rig where he's got this clear plastic brassiere on that has, I don't know, formula inside of it. And he's like holding the baby up and like having it nurse. I'm sorry. Just something is completely wrong with that photo. But anyway, I digress. The point here that I'm trying to make is this guy, Pete Buttigieg, all right, was able or was unable to funnel some of that $1 billion over to the FAA to at least begin the process of upgrading our very aged air traffic control system that handles literally millions of people every single day. And not one of those dollars actually made it there. It's kind of like the whole electric charging stations. Yeah, we were going to have like 500,000 of those things across the United States. What was the total number? 8. Single digit. 8. 8 in comparison to the 500,000 that were supposed to be. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. My listeners, my Rumble listeners, not saying that the Facebook listeners are not smart, but I'm telling you, the Rumble listeners are on it. Not saying my X listeners are not smart either, because, you know, anybody that necessarily watches this program on a regular basis and is a Whiskey Warrior P1 is one of the smartest people in the internet ethosphere. But all of that being said, I've been corrected by my math major. Nana of JJS says, former mayor of South Bend, Indiana. And East Palestine, Ohio is where the train derailed. I think I got that one right. But the South Bend, Indiana part, I didn't even know. I mean, that just tells you just how important this town actually is. But anyway. And they want him to run for president in 2028. He is not qualified, period. I mean, if you thought Kamala Harris wasn't qualified, he definitely isn't. I mean, at least Kamala Harris has VP experience underneath her belt. I don't know. Does she have a belt? Anyway, moving on. Well, to kind of shift things back to Biden, because we were talking about Biden's, I probably should have tied these two together. The Tapper story in this one. I failed on this one. But anyway, apparently the outgoing interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, confirmed on Monday this week that his office is actually conducting an investigation into the several last-minute pardons that were issued by Joe Biden in the final hours of his administration. In an interview with the Daily Caller, and by the way, this is in LifeZet. So in an interview with Daily Caller editorial director Vince Colanesi, now that name should sound familiar to any of you Bongino folks, because that is the new Vince, okay? That is the new Vince. show that took over Bongino's radio spot and also his podcast. But anyway, Daily Caller editorial director Vince Colanesi did this interview, and Ed Martin revealed that the Department of Justice is actually reviewing the scope and the legality of Biden's preemptive pardons, which were issued shortly before Donald Trump was sworn into office for his second term. Martin did state that the investigation is focusing on possible corruption and abuse of the pardon power, specifically surrounding the unusually broad nature of the pardons and the individuals that they covered. Now, keep in mind, okay, again, the presidential pardon, as a rule, the presidential pardon has the president has plenary power to pardon whomever he wishes. However, traditionally speaking, it can't be used for future crimes. It can only be used for what is suspected that an individual did. And in general, it's usually a little more specific than what Biden did, for an example, to his son Hunter, in saying, yeah, just this 10-year period, he's absolved from anything that he might have done within this 10-year period. Think back to the Gerald Ford pardon of Richard Nixon. He pardoned him for Richard Nixon's specific involvement in the Watergate scandal. Okay? That was specific to a event. That wasn't just a all-fired blanket pardon for 10 years, by the way. And so there's also some questions, too, that I hope they're looking at, although this article doesn't necessarily point this out. But they're also looking at, I hope, would potentially be the whole auto pen use. Because, again, Joe Biden reportedly did not do the pardons. In fact, there is some suggestion that he wasn't even there for the pardons. And given his mental decline, and now Jake Tapper's book that has come out, essentially articulating the fact that the mainstream media and the White House covered up for Biden's cognitive decline, or overall decline, I should say, that there is a potential that we may not have, these pardons may not actually be legal. And so I certainly hope that they're going after this. Now, all of that being said, again, this is sort of an attack on the constitutional plenary power of pardoning, but it isn't necessarily attacking the fact that the president can pardon. It's just attacking the fact that we had a president who was not there, mentally speaking, and may not have even been there physically speaking, when these pardons were written out by AutoPen or signed by AutoPen. This is certainly presents an interesting legal conundrum for the entire situation. All right. I know you guys are waiting. Unfortunately, I do not have a prepped pet of the week. I totally spaced it. My fault for doing the pet of the week for that. So anyway, well, here is Vince's here's Vince's interview with Ed Martin. So let's go ahead and take a listen to some of this.
We've never seen pardons of the scope, and it looks at least like something that you could be corrupt. When Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich, and turns out that Mark Rich had paid a boatload of money to one of Clinton's friends, lawyers.
By the way, I like Vince's microphone. That's the same microphone that I use. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
It's not corrupt. It's not criminal because the plenary power of the pardon. But in the case of Joe Biden and his pardons, they were so specific. Back 14 years, covering everything you've ever done. And when I say specific, they were broad, but they had time stuff on them. It was and that at least leads to questions because the plenary power is true, But the question is, what was going on here? And I did get responses from some of them, and those things are ongoing.
So there you go. Again, they're taking a look at this, and as rightfully they should. They should be taking a look at this because, again, honestly, the abuse of power is the question, not necessarily just does he have the power, but the abuse of power is the problem. And, yeah, so anyway, so there you go. So yeah, and again, even questioning like the sweeping pardon of his own son. Now, there's nothing that necessarily in the Constitution that blocks the president from pardoning his own son. It seems a little unethical, but okay. There's nothing in the Constitution that necessarily requires any kind of ethics to go along with it. I think it was sort of assumed when they were writing the Constitution that people would act ethically and morally. But yeah, anyway. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not just Hunter Biden, okay, that got it. You also have Frank Biden got pardoned. You also have all of the January 6th select committee, or unselect if you listen to Trump. Most of the high-profile members, such as Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. And then you also have Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff. And, along with any of the others that were part of the committee. So, yeah, anyway. I think they actually should they should find something on this. This just seems like it just seems like this is possible. Well, a big thing happens tomorrow, folks. A big thing at the Supreme Court. And this one I'm hopefully going to try and watch, and we'll probably talk about tomorrow night if anything comes of it. But the whole concept of nationwide injunctions is going in front of the Supreme Court tomorrow. Now, it is tied to the whole birthright citizenship process, but let's be clear. That birthright citizenship scenario is not necessarily what they're going to be talking about. The U.S. Supreme Court is going to hear arguments tomorrow with regards to whether or not the President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship is able to be blocked by the lower courts. So 3 federal district judges issued nationwide injunctions that reportedly prevent the Trump administration from implementing that particular order, despite the executive branch's longstanding constitutional authority over immigration matters. So anyway, the High Court is now being asked to consider whether such sweeping judicial actions actually overstep the proper rule of the courts. So this is, I'm going to say, probably one of the bigger cases, definitely of this year. And keep in mind, since President Trump began his second term in 2025, his administration has faced 17 nationwide injunctions, all separate, through late March alone. Okay. So, yeah. Now, keep in mind that Justice Gorsuch has questioned this. Justice Clarence Thomas has questioned this, even so far as I believe it's Sotomayor has even questioned this particular thing. So the comment, of course, by Gorsuch, he wrote in a 2020 concurring opinion. He made a comment that the routine issuance of universal injunctions is patently unworkable, sowing chaos for litigants, the government, courts, and all those affected by these conflicting decisions. He also warned of the dangers, quote unquote, judge shopping, where plaintiffs seek out courts that are likely to deliver favorable rulings, like they did with the whole Venezuelan case, where they went to Boasberg courts in D.C. when the plaintiffs were actually sitting in a Texas detention center. So as a part of that, okay, these judges are questioning it. Again, Elena Kagan even kind of voiced skepticism as to whether or not the district court judges, the federal district court judges, can actually issue this nationwide injunction. And as I discussed multiple times on the program with regards to these nationwide injunctions, they are a modern a modern action that they didn't actually come around until about the Obama era. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Now, I would suggest, if you have any interest, go to scotusblog.com, I think. Maybe it's .org. SCOTUS blog. Just type in SCOTUS blog. That's SCOTUS blog, B-L-O-G, in your favorite search engine, and you'll be able to bring it up and see. SCOTUS blog will probably have a live blog of the arguments that are going on. So anyway. All right, folks. Yes, buddy. Pet of the Week is supposed to be every Wednesday night. I apologize. I biffed it because I didn't prepare the proper stuff for it. So I apologize for that. I apologize to you. I apologize to your other friend who submitted stuff. And yeah, so there you go. I'm sorry. I don't have it prepped. I promise I will pick it up probably next week. Okay. So anyway, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com. And once you are there, signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, give me those thumbs up or thumbs down, depending upon what you want to do. Across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, and of course, Facebook, and of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. And again, I apologize for not having a Pet of the Week. That's totally my bad. We will see you tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.